Welcome, 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 everybody. Namaste. So pleased to see some familiar faces coming in. So we've got Shanice in the house, Pauline, Hania, Elizabeth. Good to see you, everybody. Happy Thursday. Happy rainy Thursday. We've already had a technical glitch on my side. I was going to share some really lovely music for you all coming in, and I couldn't find the bloody song. It's like, if you'd have been in the waiting room just a minute ago, you'd have heard 2 or 3 different songs playing. So here we go, rolling with the technology. We're just going to go with it. So yes, thank you, everybody, for being here and making my day. I'm just so proud and pleased as punch that you guys get to be here and that you're here for my talk. You were born to make a difference. 3 steps to unlocking your purpose. So yeah, I'm just so excited to have all of you here today because we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is all things purpose, mission, dharma, ripple effect, life's work, life's mission, whatever you want to call it. We're here today to download it, to unlock it, and to start making your dream of a fulfilling life a reality. And my clock has also stopped working as well. Literally, are we in like Mercury retrograde or something today? What on earth is going on? I'm going to have my clock somewhere so that I can see it and try and stick to time today on our time. So yeah, we're here to download it. We're here to unlock it. And just give me a little visual hands up so I can get a temperature of the room to see if that motivates you and excites you. And you can also drop a message, drop a yes in the chat if you're ready to have some breakthroughs and some ahas today around purpose. So I'm going to teach you some profound conceptual stuff. And I see some nice yeses coming in. Amazing. I'm just going to enable the chat on the side as well so I can really get into it. Lovely. Ooh, yes, says Zari. Love that. Perfect. So yeah, I'm going to teach you some conceptual stuff. And then I would like to get into like the nitty gritty and just some like strategic scientific-y stuff because I'm a total nerd like that. But before I do all of that, I just want to start by saying that I don't think that everyone is born to make a difference. And I don't think that everyone's born with a unique purpose because I know that they are. And I just want to start out by saying just thank you for being here. Thank you for dedicating yourself to something so much bigger than you. And just thank you for taking time to get clear on your gifts, your visions, and your dreams. And I just really want to acknowledge and congratulate you and just say that I'm proud of you for showing up for yourself today. Like, you could have spent this Thursday afternoon any other way that you chose, but you chose to be here. And so I just really am appreciating you, and I'm really grateful for you for giving me your time. I don't take that lightly. So as we are dropping into this beautiful field together of collective consciousness, I just invite you to drop into the space and just put a hand on your heart and just close your eyes. And let's just take a nice deep breath together. And releasing that out, letting that go. And just feeling into the truth. And I just want you to know that wherever you are on your journey, I want you to know that you are exactly where you're supposed to be and that you are right on time, that you are right on track. And I just want to confirm a few things that a part of you deep down inside already knows. And that is that you have greatness inside of you, that you have a unique gift and an innate value that can change the world and uplift and inspire others, that you are here for great things and that you're here to fulfill a potential that quite possibly might just be a little bit beyond what you've ever imagined or thought possible up until this point. And I know that you're here to shine your light and to stop hiding in plain sight and to stop being the best kept secret. So with that truth, just anchoring that into your heart, I just invite you to open your eyes, to come back into this space. Just acknowledging all of your sisters on the call here today, drinking in their energy, thanking them for their presence. Amazing. So it's my intention that I'm going to pack a ton of value into our time here today, as much as I can into our roughly sort of 60 minutes together. And as you can see, thank you to my lovely wingwoman Zari, this call is being recorded and a replay is going to be sent out. But if you wanted to take some notes, just make sure that you have a notebook and pen, but you can always refer back to the replay afterwards, which will be sent out in the next 24 hours or so. So before we dig into everything, I just wanted to let you know who I am, just in case we've never met before and you're brand new to my world. So hi, everyone. I'm Jess Holiday. And these days I'm so lucky that I get to live in Devon, in the southwest of England. For those of you who aren't in the UK, I work for myself and I set my own timings. I do what I want, when I want, with who I want, for as long as I want. And it's my honor and my absolute privilege to be able to support amazing women like you who are waking up and rising up into their potential. And it's my job as a coach, a teacher, spiritual guide to really empower and unleash your potential and inspire you to greatness. And these days, it's my job to hold you in this highest truth of who and what you are, which is this multidimensional spiritual being. And I get to remind you of that again and again, especially in those moments when you might have forgotten. And as a coach, it's my job to challenge you and to encourage you to grow. So by challenging your preconceptions, by challenging your perceptions and asking you to just look at things slightly differently. And on the other side of that, we get to grow. And I just feel so lucky to just be embodying and sharing my own gifts and my own unique abilities in a way that helps others to grow and realize their potential. So I now know that my purpose is totally realized by helping other people realize theirs. So I just feel so lucky to be doing what I'm doing now, because I'll be honest and say that my life hasn't always been like this. You know, we're 2024 now. So it's nearly been a decade since I started out on my own journey of self-discovery. So 10 years ago, I was in my mid-30s. I was living in London and I was working as like a successful marketing manager. And I made a pretty decent living. I made about sort of £50,000 a year, something like that. So if you were to look at it, like on paper, I had money, I had success, you know, I was doing the gym thing and, you know, living and working in London, like, woohoo, you know, I've made it. But deep down, I'll be honest and say that I still had this like ache, this kind of emptiness and a feeling that like my life just didn't really like fit me anymore. Does anybody relate to that? Like that just suddenly it feels a bit like, hello, what's going on? So have you ever heard of that phrase, like the 7-year itch? So according to science, I hate that when they say that, but yeah, according to science, our cells in our body renew every 7 years. So in 2015, I was actually in my 5th iteration. I was 35. So technically, I was a completely different person, like inside and out. So if you're 35, maybe 42, or 49, carry on the 7 times table, you might also be feeling this as well, right? Like life just doesn't fit you anymore and that you want more, that you want something different, right? And it's totally natural because actually you have changed. You know, you are not the 7-year-old baby. You are not the 14-year-old teenager anymore. So it's not only that life happens to us, but like literally your body has completely changed. And suddenly you can feel like everything is just, it doesn't fit you anymore. It's just like a stretched jumper or whatever. It's just not working out anymore. So I found myself, even though I was basically, you know, like I said, on paper, having this success, I was kept asking myself, like, is this really it? You know, like I kind of always had this feeling deep down that I was meant for something more, but I just didn't have a clue, like what exactly that was or how I was going to find it. And I just found that really frustrating. So I found myself like, I don't know if anybody else can relate to this. I was like, Google to the rescue, you know, like bringing up a Google page, like literally typing in, what should I be doing with my life? You know, and damn it, you know, Google was not very forthcoming with answers to those questions. And I just felt like I was really going through the motions. Like I was just reacting to life. I was just doing the thing day to day, like eat, sleep, work, repeat, you know, all of that kind of stuff, just doing the things. I was really good at my job. And, you know, if a promotion had come along, I'd have taken it and I probably would have stayed on that path. But I wasn't really like going after life, you know, going after it. I wasn't really going after it. And I guess just like somewhere along the way, I just had like lost myself. I found myself in this job. I was sort of quite high up in like middle management. And like I said, I was doing a really damn good job of it. But I just was like, is this all there is? And so I kind of found myself feeling like I was at a crossroads where I just wanted more. Like I knew that I was really good at what I was doing, but I was also kind of asking myself, like, but is this what I'm really meant for? Like, is marketing the thing? Right. But also that thought of like, oh God, well, if it's not this, and like starting over again and starting with something completely new, and maybe like at the bottom again, like maybe just kind of want to run in the opposite direction. And it was like, well, if I'm going to start again, then what am I going to start with? I was like sort of thinking about moving into like new and uncharted territories. This wasn't like about making some just sideways move into a different company or whatever. This just felt like, I needed to start and do something different. So, and what if I made a mistake? What if I chose the wrong thing? I just literally wanted somebody to just come and tell me, like, this is the thing that I need to do, right? Just have that guru just pop into my life and just go, right, Jess, here you go. This is what you're destined for, right? I mean, who else like just wants that guru to arrive in their life and just go like, give them some divine intervention, right? Give me that thing that just felt more aligned to like my passions and my skills. So I could just like go all in on that, and I could just sense that there was something within me, and it was just itching to break out. And that frustration was like, just felt like I was wasting my potential. Even one of my amazing bosses, she said to me, she was like, you're wasted here. Right. So there was just that reaffirmation or confirmation from the universe that like I had so much more to give. And yet here I was just like stuck on like where to find it and, what to do. And, I'd gone through like a pretty massive breakup as well, so there was all these signs from the universe, but I just like, all in all, I was just feeling like really lost, and I just kept waking up like not really knowing who I was, what I really wanted. I just had lost my spark, and I was just like pretty rudderless, and I did that thing of like listing all of my skills, like, what could I do, what could I offer, like I remember even listing once, like maybe I could just go and become like, a scuba diving instructor or like a surf instructor, like all these out there options, like what am I meant to do? And the more I asked, the more it just kind of made me feel so confused and directionless. But every attempt to search for answers just kind of left me feeling even more stuck and confused. And I remember one time I was just like sat in the conference room in this company that I was working for, and I loved all the people that I worked with. And I think the final nail in the coffin was just this one meeting, where I just realized, I looked and there were all these people that I really respected. And there was a particular meeting, and they just answered a question in such a way that just made me realize like just how their brains worked so differently from mine. And I've had all these sort of clues and, sort of nods from the universe that I was in the wrong place. And this conference, this meeting just finally kind of was the nail in the coffin of just like, you need to be somewhere else. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know like where I was meant to be, but I just knew that the job I was doing, it wasn't going to change the world. It was a great company, great people, but I knew I needed to go out and like find what I was meant to do, and I was willing to go and find it. So like I said, this wasn't just about like changing companies or making some sideways move. This was about getting that clarity and living my purpose, like finally doing what I was meant to do. So I decided to take this big leap, and I resigned from my job. I didn't really know what I was going to be doing. All the people in my company thought I was mental. But I escaped the city and I took a one-way ticket to India. And I started to do that inner work to really heal my nervous system. And that helped me to reveal and discover like who I was and what I wanted and what I was really meant for. And then, as the years have gone by, I've taken an even bigger leap, to become an entrepreneur so I could fully express all my gifts and realize my potential and just really live life on my terms. So finding my path was one of the hardest and the best things that I've ever done. And I understand that not everybody can do what I did and like, head for the Himalayas to find themselves, right? But that's why I'm also so happy that now I get to be the woman that I needed back then. And I get to show the path, like, and I get to show other people the path without needing to like go and meditate in a cave for 6 months, right? So, now we all know that there was that particular epidemic that happened, a few years ago, the one that shall not be named, otherwise I get cancelled off the internet or something. But I see a very different epidemic that plagues us all, which is one of ambiguity, confusion, like distraction and indecision, like this big fear of failure and this fear of the unknown that's like paralyzing all of us from taking these leaps. And like I said, it's my privilege to help people and women like you to overcome, problems and blocks like this in the work that we do together. So this is the talk and the information that I wished that my 35-year-old self had heard. I went traveling all around the world only to find out that the person and the answers that I was in search of was here all the time. So I dedicate this talk to her and everyone else who feels like she did. So I just want you to take a minute to breathe into that with me, and maybe even just pop a me in the chat if you've ever felt like lost or confused or frustrated. I just want to see. Yeah, Candy, yes, absolutely. Yeah, so just breathe into that. Love that, Shanice. Thank you. I'm so happy that you guys are all here. Yeah, love that. So today, as I say, it's my pleasure to teach to you today 3 steps that are going to help you to unlock your purpose. And they may not be exactly what you might think they are, but the 3 steps are: first one is detox, the second one is decipher, and the third one is decide. Okay, so we're going to go through these in order. So the first step to unlocking your purpose is to detox. And by that, I really mean this is all about tuning your instrument. And I love this quote by Michael Beckwith, who, if you haven't checked him out online, he's amazing. He's from my same lineage of New Thought. But his quote is, "Energy flows where your attention goes." So basically, we energize where we put our attention. So when we're talking about, determining and unlocking our purpose, when we're trying to get answers, right? The easiest thing I could say to you is just go off and meditate. But if you've never meditated before, that's probably the most annoying, frustrating answer you've ever heard, because yeah, it's easy to say, just go and meditate. But actually, what we need to do is pay attention to our instrument, right? Yeah, Mr. Beckwith. Yes. Janice and I, Beckwith fans, right? So when I talk about this, it's like when we're trying to get answers, we really need to ask ourselves, like, in what ways have the distractions that we have in this very busy world, like, diluted our focus, right? And how can reclaiming your focus transform the quality of your thoughts and your actions, right? So if you think about like your body as being like a radio, a radio's job is to receive a signal and to replay and reproduce that signal out. And if that radio isn't working very well, or even if you think about the laptop that you're watching this talk on today, right? It's got Zoom on it, and sometimes our laptops can be a little tricksy, shall we say. Maybe the RAM is a little bit rammed, or you've got too many tabs open, or maybe you haven't updated your operating system, right? So when our operating system is out of date, or our laptops are a little bit too old, who can identify with that? With like a slow operating computer, that isn't working very well, right? So if you think about your body as the physical manifestation of energy, everything is energy, but your body is a physical manifestation of energy, and it's an antenna, it's a receiver. It's here to receive information. Like, your purpose is just as much about receiving the information as it is about expressing it. So if you're in search of answers, you've got to really pay attention to the instrument that is trying to receive those answers, right? So I like to kind of use this analogy of like imagining a radio walking around, personifying itself, but it's like, it's just desperate to, what is my purpose? And it hasn't switched on. It's just walking around like, what is my damn purpose, right? And it just takes somebody to just come along and just switch its little button on and just go, that's all you needed to do. Yeah, you are an antenna, precisely, right? So, but if your antenna, or if your operating system isn't working so well, or if there's a lot of static, you've got to just tune that radio a little bit until you get a clear frequency. So what is causing the static in our instrument, on our antenna, right? So when we look at the world is a fast-paced, like constantly vying for our attention. Like, we have to shift out of addiction and attention like 50,000 times a day. Think about every time you pick up your phone, right? How many times are you checking your phone for like WhatsApp messages. And even that, even when you are using your phone, the amount of micro decisions that you're trying to make, like even as you're scrolling through social media, like, should I watch this? Should I answer that message? Should I not stop and watch that? Like, there's all these little like decisions that you're making. Not only is the phone distracting, but there are these many decisions that you need to make, which is just like depleting your cognitive juice. And you've only got so much cognitive juice to go around, right? So really, this is about sort of an attention training game. But not only that, your instrument can also be clouded, or static can be added by your food choices, your nutrition choices, right? So this is about looking at like the alcohol consumption that you might have, like your caffeine consumption, how much you're hydrating yourself, right? So this is about the choices that you make in terms of how clear and how cleansed and how free from static your antenna is. So this first step of detoxing is really about sort of checking in with, the ways in which you can fine tune your instrument to really quieten the noise and the static. And sure, like meditation is one of those things, but it's all about, what are you doing to better enable yourself to receive the wisdom when it comes. Or Pauline is saying, this is hitting home, right? So, I mean, think about your laptop. How many windows do you have open? Literally and metaphorically, this is about closing down the tabs, managing the inbounds in your life, managing the distractions, the things that are actually getting your attention. Because if you're after answers of like, what is my purpose? Then what else are you putting your attention to, right? So you've got to think about, closing down the distractions, managing the inbounds, putting yourself maybe on a technological detox, using amazing apps. Like I have Opal on my phone, which basically polices me on how much or how little I want to use apps, right? Literally shutting them down so that I can't use them, making your phone a tool rather than something that controls you, and making sure that you're using it. I think there's some enormous statistic that says, we use our phones between a staggering like 6 to 8 hours a day. And that's probably a conservative estimate, right? And, so if you start to control where your attention is going, then you conserve the energy to actually think clearly. If you look at your nutrition, are you eating whole and unprocessed foods? Looking at your like alcohol consumption, your sugar, your caffeine, your nicotine intake, all of these toxins that are just creating that static, right? So, that was something that really helped me on my journey. I didn't do everything all at once, but I definitely started by just, regulating my nervous system. I learned how to meditate. I learned how to breathe. I learned how to stretch. And then eventually that turned into like, I stopped drinking, taking drugs and smoking. As time's gone on, I've learned more and more about things like fasting and so many things, right? So I just can't overemphasize enough, this profound impact that each of these decisions that you can make on just cleansing and clarifying your body. Veronica says I did a sensory diet. I chose carefully what I let in: films, radio, books, and made sure that everything had the vibration I wanted to become. Love that. Yes. Right. So I just want to invite you to just do a little bit of an interactive exercise. We're going to do this for each of the points, right? I just want you to score yourself, just grab a piece of paper, and there's just going to be 3 scores that you need to do, one for each one. So for this point, for step number 1, for detoxing, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being like 0 static. And if we think about the static being all the distractions, maybe, the quality of your diet. So if you haven't got a great diet, that's sort of, a lot of static, right? So you want to sort of score yourself, 1 being like 0 static and 10 being the highest. Like, how much static do you think you have? So if you've not got a terrific diet, and if you drink a lot and you're, using your phone 10 hours a day, then you might want to be up sort of on the 8s or the 9s, or something like that. But if you have, self-care practices that help to cleanse your instrument, then maybe you're a little bit lower. So just kind of consider all things together, but things like your diet, the number of micro decisions, how much you're using your phone, all the things that are pulling your attention and clouding your judgment. And if you want to keep that score for yourself, you're welcome. But if you also, like Danielle, want to share in the chat what your score is, then please feel free to do so. And, for a long time, I would have definitely scored myself like a 1 or a 2. Right?
Yeah.
So
Jess, I was just going to say,
yes,
1's the lowest, right?
Yes, 1 is the lowest. Yeah. So like 1 being that you have, oh, sorry, one being that you have like no static. So I would have scored myself higher. I would have scored myself like an 8 or a 9, right? So if you've got a lot of static, you know, if you've got a lot of distractions, then you want to put yourself up on the higher end. So I hope that's clear. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. Okay, great. Shanice is like, I'm off the scale 100. We've all been there, my friend. We've all been there. No shame, no shame. So that was the first step, is to detox and tune your instrument. All right. Yeah. And yeah, Candy, you know, kids, they're going to do that, right? I don't have kids, but I have a fur baby. So, you know, I'm always like, oh God, I've got to go and take him for a walk now, whatever. You know, they're always on your mind. You can never like switch it off, right? So I feel you. I feel you, sister. So step number 2 is decipher. So what does that mean? This is all about discovering your unique gifts. So first of all, I just want to define like what is purpose and why it's important to talk about. So according to Deepak Chopra, you know, there is this law of dharma, is the way we kind of talk about it in spirituality, or purpose. And it states that everybody has a purpose in life. This is a unique gift or a special talent that you can give to others. And when we blend that unique talent that we've got with service to others, then we can experience like the pure bliss and joy of the expression of our own spirit, which is the ultimate goal, right? So that's kind of the fancy way of talking about what purpose is. But you'll notice there was like unique talent, right? That's in there. This is your unique gift, your special gift, your superpower, right? And I kind of want to make a distinction here about what purpose, what it is not. Okay. Your purpose is not a fixed thing. It's not just one thing, right? And it's not necessarily the job that you do either. And also, it's not out there. You're not going to find it out there. That's a big mistake that I've made. You know, a lot of people think is that they're going to find their purpose somewhere out there. What it is, your purpose is dynamic. So your purpose is going to change throughout your life as your sense of who you are and as your sense of what's actually possible and what you can achieve changes. And that's exponential, right? So if you'd have told me 10 years ago that this is what I'd have been doing, I'd have been like, yeah, whatever, right? I wouldn't have even identified with it. I wouldn't have known what you were talking about. I certainly wouldn't have thought it was possible. But as I have grown, I've taken 10x leaps, you know, year by year. Like when I gave up alcohol, suddenly there was so many things were possible. When I did this retreat, I did that, you know, suddenly my sense of who I was and accepting that I am a multidimensional spiritual being, you know, enabled me and empowered me to see that there was so much more for me, right? And your purpose is also like, it's your unique, ineffable, like inseparable essence. It's like, you know, just as much as my eyes are blue, you cannot separate that from me. Like if I did a different job, my eyes are always going to be blue, my hair is always going to be blonde unless I dye it, you know. But you know what I'm saying, right? You know, there are certain things that just cannot be separated from you. And your purpose is also, it's not what you do, it's what you do with what you have. And also it's the impact that you have on other people with what you have. I just want to say that again. It's not what you do, it's what you do with what you have. And it's the impact that you have on other people with that superpower, with what you have. So it's as unique as your pheromones. It's as unique as your fingerprint. It's your energy. It's the presence that you bring into the room. Like to think about someone else, you must have someone in your life, like a friend, you know, who like they walk into a room and they don't even have to say something. And you're just like, there she is, right? There is just someone who has that presence where you know that they've arrived and you're glad that they're there and they haven't even said anything yet, right? So that is as much a part of your purpose. It's your reason for being, you know? So I think a lot of people think of purpose as being like a mandate, like a mission, which to a certain extent, yes, it is, but it's not the job you do. That's part of it, right? Zari says, it's not what you do. Yes, thank you. So, you know, Dan Sullivan says that the scariest and most exciting thing that you will ever do is be your truest self, right? And, you know, like I was, you may already be like smashing it at something, but maybe you just feel like you're not optimizing your fullest potential. Like maybe you're thinking like, is this the most I can give? You know, maybe this isn't like hitting the mark. Maybe you're like smashing it and you're the senior manager or whatever, and you're getting all the awards, but you're just like, nah, it's just not quite not quite making the most of who I am, right? And maybe you've even hit a point in your successful career, like where you feel trapped by your own success. Like maybe you can't turn around now and do something different. And like, if you did turn around now, like what the heck would you do anyway? Right. So a lot of discovering our purpose, meeting Shanice's mind. So, discovering your purpose starts with really asking better questions, right? So, like I said before, it's not what you're good at, it's what you're good at that also adds value, So, it's not just what you do, it's about what you do with what you have. And it all starts with looking at your unique abilities. Yeah. So, Danielle says the two most important days in your life, the day you were born and the day you find out why. Boom. Yes, exactly. Right. And it doesn't have to be some, Mother Teresa huge thing. It can be as simple as just you being your blossoming self in this world, the energy that you bring to someone that can change even just one person's life, right? So it starts with about looking at your unique abilities. It's about recognizing that our true essence, our jewel, as the Dalai Lama puts it, there's a mantra in Buddhism called Om Mani Padme Hum, which basically means like no mud, no mud, no lotus. There is this jewel in the lotus that we all have, this jewel at our core, and that our only job is to really bring out that jewel and to hone it and to share it, like regardless of what has gone on in our lives. And if you read the Bible, we're also described, it's a Greek word, poema, right? Which is saying that your life is a poem. That's where we get the word poem from, is poema. That we are we're a creation of the universe, God, spirit, whatever you want to call it, right? But you are a unique expression. Like you have something that you are so uniquely able to bring that brings value to other people. So this isn't necessarily the things you would put on a CV, right? But it's things like, for example, maybe you're a really great listener. I've had some reflections back to me that just like, Jess, now you listen, but you like really fucking listen. Like I think I sometimes have direct conversations with people's souls, put it that way, where I just hear what's not being said and I can hear between the lines, right? So maybe you too are a great listener, or maybe you just have this incredible kindness and like love about you. You just bring that loving kindness to everybody in your world. They just feel so loved and seen and held by you, or maybe you're just really, really good at giving advice, or maybe you even have that like incredible skill of like ripping it up and just saying it like it is. One of my old bosses, we kind of clashed a bit, but oh my God, she had the tongue of truth. Like if you wanted the truth, you would go to her. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I know she's going to tell me like it is. And that's a superpower. Not everybody has that. If you kind of think about the people that you look up to and you admire, there are things that they do that you feel like you don't have, right? So there are those unique abilities that those people you admire and that you have also, right? So I just invite you to reflect a little bit on, what might you put down as your superpower? And if you feel like that's quite a difficult question to answer, if you feel a little bit blocked of like, I'm not really sure what that is, there's a reason for that. And it's because it's the water that you're swimming in, that you can't always see your value. You can't always see it because you just do it and you don't see it, right? So Danielle says being thoroughly authentic, right against the odds. Yes, right. So there's power in that authenticity. Not everybody has that, right? So, if you do feel like it's difficult to answer or you're confused, again, I kind of refer you back to step one, like how much static do you have? Is your nervous system maybe blocked? Is it perhaps in like survival or frustration mode? Like, is it all locked up? Because also we can have a habit of hiding our gifts, maybe because of past experiences. Like, I mean, I'll put my hand up and say, there are a lot of people in my past who used to say like, oh, you're too much. You ask too many questions, and I felt like I needed to mute myself and not be the person that I am today, right? I can see you shaking your head, Candy, right? So there are people that have said things to us that have landed and stuck with us that have prevented us from sharing our innate gifts and talents because we felt shame. And especially as women, there's a huge percentage of women who are struggling and dealing with like the shame sort of command or the shame trauma, right? So there's a few of us who feel like maybe we're a bit scared of our own power, right? So we've become scared of expressing it. All right. So I just want you to take a little moment right now and your piece of paper, and just maybe to write down maybe a quality or a skill that you've maybe not thought of as a quality or a skill or a trait that you have, but that also adds value. So maybe your friends have reflected back to you sometimes, like, you're just such a great listener or whatever, right? And write that down, even if it's just one thing that you can think of today, so Danielle shared, like being thoroughly authentic, right? So just have a little think about that today. And if again that still feels hard, then something I would invite you to do is to choose 3 of your closest friends, 3 people who really know you and who you trust to be vulnerable with, and send them a text message, or maybe you want to call them, but text message also, just like send them a message and just ask them, like, what quality, what skill, or maybe like, what do you see in me that I don't see in myself? Like, what am I really good at that I don't know that I'm good at? Right? Just ask them to reflect that back to you. Because again, the quality of your answers depends on the quality of your questions, but it's also going to depend on the quality of your mirrors. So if you have those people reflect that back to you, you might be surprised. So if you do that and we connect afterwards, I'd love to hear what those are. But yes, if you want to just for today, just work with one thing that you just think, actually, yeah, no, I am a really good listener. But you might be thinking, well, how do I turn that into a career? Right. And that's always the thing that we do. We always start going down the rabbit hole of like, but the how and the what, right? But it starts with just identifying, okay, this is something that I am uniquely able to do. And there's also another little secret side to deciphering your dharma or your purpose that a lot of people don't really talk about, right? So there's one side of dharma, which is this unique gift or this superpower that we're talking about that you provide to other people. And that's really, I guess, the key that you could say in terms of how do I turn this into a career, or how do I turn this into a calling and a career path, is by saying, yes, I have this skill, but it also, it matches to a need in somebody's heart out there, right? And that combination is a powerful combination, bringing your talents together with a need. But in terms of uncovering it again, so, it's not your fault that you don't necessarily know what your skill sets are, because this isn't how we're taught in school. We're taught that like being good at maths is good, and being good at this particular subject is good, and this is how you become a good worker bee, and blah, 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 blah. We're not taught to like sit and actually reflect on, okay, well, who are you and what do you bring, right? So don't beat yourself up for not knowing how to do this. And also think about those times when you have had your light dimmed by other people, right? So another side of deciphering your dharma is this other side of the coin. So yes, one side is this unique gift and talent, this superpower that you bring. But the other side is looking at actually what charges you up, like what your fun is, what your version of fun, what your passions are, right? Because when you are in that state of joy and happiness, that helps you to relax. And that allows your sense of self, like what you actually like and what your purpose and all of that, your natural gifts just start to flow through you. So think about like travel, for example. I think we can all probably say and identify that we like traveling. I like traveling a lot. Yes, there we go, Danielle. So, we all like traveling. And haven't you noticed that actually when you're on a holiday or you're relaxing, that you have some of your best ideas, like when you're just relaxed around the pool, or, when you're in the shower or whatever, when you're not thinking about it, but when you're enjoying yourself, right? You just start to have these more ideas, like driving. Yeah. So basically being in a situation where your conditions put you at your best is where your nervous system is going to be in the greatest harmony. So we talk about sort of heart rate variability or coming into coherence. So when we're going about our day and maybe we feel a little bit discombobulated or whatever, our nervous system can look a little bit like the stock market on a bad day, when all of our systems are kind of in and out of kilter. But when we are actually balancing our nervous system and our heart is in coherence, then it just looks more balanced, right? And we're in this state of bliss and joy. And again, it's about tuning that radio, right? And you've created the right conditions. And in that right condition where you feel good, literally, it's almost like your natural gifts and your talents just start to burst out of you. Like your purpose just naturally and effortlessly. It's like an overflow. The definition of abundance is like having too much. You're having way more than you need, right? So as you fill yourself up with the good just pours out of you. and you just want to share it, right? So you think about a seed of a flower. You know, if you prepare the soil and you put the seed in the soil, like, this world is geared for abundance. Like, it's just going to say yes. So when you plant that seed, it's just going to grow, right? Our world is primed and wired for abundance. So you plant that seed in the right soil, give it the right amount of water and sunlight, and it becomes a beautiful flower, or maybe a towering tree. And just to take that purpose analogy even further, you know, the purpose of a flower is simply to flower and blossom and to share its beauty with us. It doesn't need to go anywhere. It doesn't need to do anything else other than be what it already is. And it doesn't need to rush that process. You know, that flower has within it the hologram of the flower it will become. So when that flower is a little seedling, or whatever the right word is for a small flower, you know, it's not kind of frustrated that it's not a flower yet, because it's going to be a flower. So I just say again that wherever you are in your journey, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And you're going to turn into that beautiful flower, or you're going to turn into that beautiful oak tree, right? Because you are no different from nature. If you've ever read any Eckhart Tolle, he talks about the fact that, you know, the secret is that you are not apart from nature, you are a part of it. So I just really love you to write that down and reflect on that you are nature, and that you have this seed inside of you. And that all you need to do is put yourself in the right conditions where you feel the joy, you feel bliss, right? And as you do that, you will just start to flourish and grow, and naturally start to feel your purpose come through you, right? So that's just a little tip in terms of, you know, how to unlock a little bit more of it. So for this step 2, I'd like you to just note down on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least and 10 being the strongest, in terms of how strongly you believe that you were born with a superpower and a unique gift and talent. So just reflecting, 1 being the least, you don't believe it at all, and 10 being the strongest. Love it, Shanice. Straight in there with the 10. Love that. Candy's an 11. Turn it up to 11. Talking of 11, that's a nice little, what's it called? Oh, what's the name of that film now? I can't think what it's called. You know what I mean, where they're like, turn it up to 11. It's like an 80s film, I think it is. On BBC iPlayer, this is a totally off tangent thing, but if on BBC iPlayer, if you go to the volume button on your iPlayer online, and you look at the top volume is 11 on the iPlayer. There's a little nod to that film that I can't remember the name of, which everyone else is just going, well, that's really boring. Spinal Tap, thank you. Yes. So yes, if you go on BBC iPlayer, the volume goes up to 11. Turn it up to 11. Anyway, so that was step 2, deciphering your purpose. And moving on to step 3. I'm a little bit over time, so I hope that you guys will be okay to stay with me a little bit past the hour. But if you do need to leave at the top of the hour, I totally understand that. We will be popping in a link before you leave, which I'll ask Zari to do in due course, which will be an invitation for you to continue on this conversation should you need to leave at the top of the hour. So I totally respect that, and I want to honor your time. So Zari will be sharing that just before, but we'll move on to step number 3, which is deciding, committing to your path, right? So this is really about the fact that your work is to discover your jewel, and then with all of your heart, give yourself to it. And that's from the Buddha. So unlocking your purpose is really about making a commitment and a decision in mind to dedicate yourself to making space for this, to making this a way of life. So you have to also make a decision that you are an extraordinary multidimensional being who was born with this unique ability, and then do everything in your power to bring that out. That's your only job, right? Is to literally just tend to your soil, to allow that purpose within you, that superpower, to grow. Because your purpose, or the answers you're looking for, aren't necessarily going to just magically land in your inbox one day, right? Or just show up somewhere outside, right? Which I totally thought it would do back in 2015. I was like, yeah, sure. The answers are just going to arrive somewhere in a book that I read or a podcast that I listen to, right? But no. You've got to make space for the journey, right? And depending on where you're at, whether you're in this job that you're not really enjoying right now, and you want to take a step in a different direction, right? There is that need to create like that practical landing strip, to carve out the time, during the day for self-discovery and self-awareness and self-exploration. So it's about keeping that main thing the main thing. It's about training your focus on asking yourself these self-reflective questions. And once you start to notice and become familiar with what it is that you're good at, that superpower that you bring, as you start to notice the feedback you're getting from the universe, because it's always giving us clues, right? You'll also, you follow what's lighting you up and what adds value to other people. And then when you get to that point, the next step is easy, right? So, that what next question that we ask is not necessarily a logical question. It's actually an emotional question. It's more of a feeling question, right? So, it's about creating systems for sure, like that support the expression of that gift in some way. It's about taking one micro step towards that without knowing how it's all going to work out. But it's about following what feels good, what feels right. And that's the guidance that you need. It's about tuning your feeling of saying, okay, I don't know what it all is. I don't know exactly how it's all going to work out, but it feels good for me to go down this path right now. And the things that feel good are the clues that, in terms of what's next, because your life is meant to feel good, right? And action is what's going to create clarity, and it's what's going to create momentum. So, take that superpower that you have identified today. So maybe it is that you are just the most incredible listener, right? So it might mean just taking a step in the direction of like volunteering somewhere where you can sit and listen to people. Try this superpower out, but create a system and a support that allows you to express that superpower in some way, to support somebody, to add that value. It might mean that you do something pro bono or something like that. It might mean getting a qualification in that particular area so you feel like you're boosting your skill set, right? But it's all about just tuning into what is the next step that feels right, that feels good. And then with each of those steps, another door opens, another door opens, another door opens. But you have to make the decision to make self-discovery and self-expression a way of life. So I just ask, what action can you maybe take this week that is going to support you in expressing that unique gift? Maybe it's sending that text message to 3 of your friends, maybe it is finding a volunteering space where you get to share that gift of listening, share that gift of advice in some way that it can change somebody's life, right? And remember that you don't even have to go out and find this stuff. It's about making the time and the space to tune your instrument and to allow yourself to receive it. And you get to see all the clues and receive the opportunities and become that detective in your own life, become more curious than critical, right? And your life is just the perfect training ground. There's always the clues everywhere, right? And, there was a point in my life where I made that pivotal decision to really follow my heart. Like I'd gone down the route of learning about meditation, and it had touched something really deep inside of me that I was like, I don't know how this is all going to work out, but I need more of this. I don't want to just kind of go back to my 9 to 5, right? I don't want to go back to London. That wasn't working out for me. I could feel that then. And I made this pivotal decision to just really follow my heart and live my truth. And I created space in my life for this transformation. And the impact that it's had on my path is that now I'm sitting here talking to all of you about Dharma, living my Dharma instead of sitting on a commuter train, traveling home from London. I mean, I probably wouldn't have even have left the office by now, right? So, I feel very fortunate that I made that decision to decide to step into this life. So for the last step, I just want to invite you on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the least and 1 being the least and 10 being the most. So I'll just say that again, 1 being the least and 10 the most. Like, how much time and space are you currently making for this journey of self-discovery? And just be really honest with yourself, like if you're not spending any time during the day, maybe you're at the lower end of the scale, like the 1 or the 2. Yeah. 1, yes, 1 is the least. And 10 being the most, you're spending at least an hour, half an hour every day, right? So thank you for sharing your numbers in the chat. And then just as you've got those 3 scores, I just invite you to add them all up together so that you've got a combined score. I'm on taking courses in meditation and nature. Yes, love that. Love nature. It's a huge part of my work that I do. It's just, I get so much inspiration from nature. I really do. So you've got your scores. My detox is a minus. When I add them up, I'll still be a minus. We'll have to do this test for you again, Shanice. It's not perfect either. I probably need to make it work a little bit better, but you know, so you've all got a little bit of a sense as to where you are, right? So with your combined score, you might have somewhere, you know, like somewhere between, 1 to 10, or maybe 11 to 20, or even, maybe if you're up to 30, then you're just like, you're smashing it. Like, well done, right? But you have that little interoception, you have this awareness, because that's really another thing, it's about training the awareness and the interoception and self-perception of what's going on in your life, right? So those scores are for you to reflect upon. And so I just want to reflect on what we've learned today, which is that you've got the 3 steps to unlocking your purpose. One is to detox, so it starts by cleansing your instrument and removing that static. The second is deciphering and understanding that your purpose is about opening yourself up to receive that guidance, receive the good, and becoming magnetic to the opportunities, magnetic to your bliss. And then the third step is deciding to make space for the journey, deciding that you're this extraordinary multidimensional being, and deciding to believe that you're wired with this unique purpose and ability. So I've said a lot of things, and I would love to just open up the floor to see what have been your biggest takeaways and ahas from today. You can either unmute yourself, or you can just pop them into the chat. And if you have any questions as well, we've got a little bit of time to answer some questions. So I'm just going to give you guys a chance. Maybe if you're typing something into the chat, just like one aha, one thing that stood out to you today. What do you see that's different for yourself? What new thing do you see for yourself today? Pauline says, I definitely need to think about the amount of static in my life. Yes. It's so key, it really, really is. And it's just small little shifts and tweaks that we can make that add up and make such a huge difference. So I love that. I love that reflection. Nice one, Pauline. So as you guys are embracing these steps and embracing what's possible, I just want to share with you a story of one of my favorite clients that I've worked with over the years. So Ebony came to me a few years ago, and she was totally disillusioned with life. She lost her spark for her passion, which was midwifery. She was a super talented midwife. And she was stuck. She was unhappy. She wasn't moving forwards. I'm also just reading the notes in the chat because I'm super keen to see what your ahas were. Candy says, it's not what you do, but what you do with what you have. Takes away the shame of not being good at stuff. Yes, love that. Yeah. And this was the thing with Ebony, right? She didn't know what she had, and she just was unhappy. She wasn't moving forwards, and she couldn't do what she needed to do or wanted to do. Like, she worked in the NHS, like, God bless it, but she couldn't do what she needed to do within the system that she was in. And she also lacked this awareness of what her superpowers were, and she just didn't know how to break free. And I was lucky enough to be able to support her to figure out what her superpowers were, to really reflect them back to her, to see the value and the light that she brought into the world that she had completely lost any awareness of. And I helped her to figure out and just determine like what it is that she actually wanted, and elevate her sense of what was possible for her. And we regulated her nervous system so that she could download and decipher her guidance more easily. And we cleared away the blocks and the limiting stories that had held her back for so many years. And I helped her to make this commitment to her path of Dharma. And with my support, she was able to build the courage and build the strategic runway to be able to actually leave her job finally, after having been in that system for about 20, 25 years. And she began taking these small incremental actions, these small little 2mm steps, like just leaning into what felt right, what felt aligned. And she began to create the momentum and create more clarity. And from each of those steps, like, more opportunities, more clarity came. Like, she didn't have it all figured out, but she just had that confidence to take the first step and to take the leap into the unknown. And now she's no longer stuck or confused. She has this amazing, thriving community. She's all over Instagram. I see her popping up all the time. She has this pool of really happy clients, and she's acting in her capacity as this independent doula, like living her purpose and sharing her gifts as they were intended. And I can see her energy, like whenever she comes on the screen, it's just like bursting through. So sometimes it can just be like little simple tweaks, like Pauline, you know, just like paying attention to the static that allows your energy to flow more freely, you know, and it's just a small tweaks needed to redirect your energy and your focus and to reinstate your confidence in what your abilities actually are, the value that you bring, and enable you to, you know, feel like you can move forwards. And what I want to offer to those of you who want to have some more support is to just really offer you the opportunity to speak with me directly. This is especially for those ladies who maybe scored 15 or less, or maybe even a minus on your combined scores, right? Yeah, hands up, those who've got those minus scores, right? So this is just a very informal chance for you to get some direct feedback, you know, to get my eyes and my ears, my super ears, on your confusion. You know, it's totally complimentary. It's completely private. Calling you now. Yeah, it's private. It's just the two of us just looking at you. So I call it a confusion to clarity session. And Zari's going to pop the link in the chat for me again. Thank you so much, Zari. So there it is there. And it's a totally free call. It's 30 minutes. And in that in that window of time, we'll have a chance to, you know, have a breakthrough about what's possible. You'll get a clearer idea about what's holding you back, and get some clear ideas about some actions that you can take. So maybe a specific, you know, detox plan that you can start to do. And, you know, if that experience with me, if that call is a beautiful experience for you, then we can talk about maybe doing some more work together. And if not, you know, you'll walk away having had a really beautiful experience with greater clarity than maybe you have now. So again, you can book that by clicking the link that Zari has popped in the chat very kindly. So I've put aside a bunch of slots this week and a few next week for those of you who want to have that time and that conversation with me. And I can tell you from having quite a few of these conversations right now, you know, magic always comes. Like I say, I have this superpower of being able to really hear what's not being said. So I sometimes feel like I'm actually having that direct conversation with your soul. And it always unearths something that's unexpected. You know, even for me, sometimes something pops up. I'm like, whoa, wasn't expecting that to come in, but maybe it will just help you to unearth something that's not on your radar. I like to think about it as, you know, really revealing like what's in your blind spots, you know, because if you could see it, you'd know it already, right? So it's just really helpful sometimes to have someone that can be supportive for you. And, you know, I would love to be that support for you for where you want to go. So if that speaks to you, if that speaks, Shanice says booked, awesome. So if that speaks to you, then yeah, grab one of the sessions that I've set aside, and I would love to meet you there. And I just want to say how honored I am that you all came to me, that you all showed up. And I just want to remind you that you have a gift to bring to this world, that you were born to make a difference with your superpower. I know it, and deep down inside, you know it too. And, you know, what's the alternative? Like, stay doing what you're doing, like stay feeling frustrated, lost, and confused. Like every one of us is coded for brilliance. And I hope that you know that now. And I hope that you know that you have the power to make a decision that could change not only your life, but the life of so many other people. So it's time to make the difference that I know and you know that you were born to make. And this is the work that I love sharing so much. And you are the women that I love sharing it with. So I just want to pop myself onto gallery mode if I can do that. Yeah, I haven't screwed that up. Amazing. So yeah, I'm so happy that you raised your hand to join me. And for those of you, yes, it's UK, is the time UK time? Yes, it is, Danielle. So I'm happy that you raised your hands for joining me. And for those of you that want to carry on the conversation, I would love to meet you there. And as we end this call, I just invite you to take yourselves off mute and maybe even turn your cameras on temporarily and just give everybody can you do that? Can everyone unmute? Have you got permission to do that? Amazing. So just have a big wave and a say goodbye to everyone. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I've loved this session. And look at that. I was only 5 seconds over. Boom. Winning. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you guys
Amazing.
are catching the replay, then it was great to have your energy in that replay as well. So look forward to another one, and I shall see all of you very, very soon. Take care. Bye. Namaste.